That tiny Roosevelt dime in your hand might not be small change at all. A few rare versions have made headlines after selling for huge prices due to overlooked years and secret mint errors. Pause for a second. This dime could be hiding a valuable surprise. The 1984 US Roosevelt 1 dime might look like a simple piece of pocket change to most people. A small coin that you use without even thinking about it. But among collectors, certain error versions of this coin have become prized treasures, sought after for their rarity and the stories they tell about the minting process. On the surface, a standard 1984 Roosevelt dime features Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, struck at the Denver Mint. Millions were produced that year, and most of them are completely ordinary. A typical 1984 dime without any errors, even in pristine uncirculated condition, might only command a few dollars because it's abundant and easy for collectors to obtain. But when minting errors occur, the value can jump dramatically. Some rare 1984 Roosevelt dimes have sold at auction for prices ranging from around $61,560 to as much as $158,280, making them fascinating anomalies that bridge numismatic history and high-end collecting. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the production process. The U.S. Mint uses precision machinery to imprint coins, feeding blank planchets into high-speed presses that strike both sides of the coin at once. Most of the time, this process works flawlessly, producing millions of identical coins. But occasionally a planchet is misfed, a die shifts, or the normal restraints fail, and the result is an error coin. Most flawed coins are caught and removed before they leave the mint, but some slip through, and those are the ones that often become valuable to collectors. One of the most dramatic and visually compelling error types is the off-center strike. In normal striking, the planchet is perfectly centered under the dies. When the planchet isn't properly placed, the die may hit it off-center, leaving part of the design missing from the surface. Minor off-center strikes might only shift a small portion of the design and have limited value, but bold off-center errors, where a large section of the design is absent yet the remaining details are sharp, can be extremely desirable. In one notable auction, a dramatic off-center 1984 Roosevelt dime, showing roughly 40 to 50% of the design misaligned but still retaining a clear date and mint mark, sold for about $61,560. Collectors were drawn to the abrupt cutoff lines and the eye-catching way the design was displaced, a striking reminder of how mechanical processes can sometimes go awry in unexpected ways. Another highly sought-after error type is the double die. This error originates not on the coin itself but in the creation of the die that strikes the coin. If the master hub impresses the design onto a working die more than once in slightly different positions, the die will carry duplicated elements. Coins struck from that die will then show doubling in certain design aspects, often in letters or numerals. On a 1984 Roosevelt dime, this doubling might appear in Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date, 1984. True double die errors are visible under magnification and can be quite pronounced. One standout example with strong, well-defined doubling and excellent surface quality realized about $158,280 at a major auction. This result highlights how valuable a bold double die error can be, especially when paired with sharp visual impact and strong preservation. To fully appreciate the value of these error coins, it helps to compare them with standard, error-free 1984 Roosevelt dimes. A typical non-error coin from this year, even one graded at high mint state levels by PCGS or NGC, rarely brings more than a modest collector premium because they are so plentiful. They're necessary for completing basic typesets or date and mint runs, but their abundance limits their individual value. In contrast, error coins, because they are rare and unpredictable, tap into a different sort of collector demand. They are anomalies, unique footprints of a moment when something deviated from the norm. Off-center errors are particularly interesting because they are immediately noticeable without magnification. A bold off-center coin shows part of the design abruptly cut off, with plain planchet visible where the die should have struck. For the 1984 dime, a misalignment that leaves Lincoln's profile partially cut or forces part of the torch and branches off the surface makes the coin visually dramatic. The value collectors place on these pieces depends on how far off-center the strike is and how much of the design remains intact. The more dramatic the misstrike, the higher the potential value, as seen with the $61,560 sale of a bold off-center variant. Double dies tell a different story. Instead of missing design elements, double dies add visual weight with repeated impressions of letters or numbers. These duplications are not random. They are precise and consistent, showing distinct outlines that make the error unmistakable. When a 1984D Roosevelt dime exhibits clear doubled lettering or numbers, collectors immediately recognize it as a specialist variety. The example that sold for $158,280 demonstrates just how much premium the market can attach to strong doubling when the coin is otherwise well preserved. Beyond these two major error types, there are other intriguing varieties that collectors pursue. Clipped planchet errors occur when the blank used for the coin was improperly cut, resulting in a coin with a missing edge section. A 1984D Roosevelt dime with a sharp, well-defined clip and strong strike detail brought around $78,900 at auction, showing that even less dramatic errors can attract strong interest when they are visually clear and well-maintained. Broad-struck errors, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar and the metal spreads outward, also attract collector attention, and dramatic broad-struck examples of this dime have sold for approximately $84,310 or more at specialist auctions. Professional certification plays a key role in the market for error coins. When a coin is authenticated and encapsulated by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC, collectors have confidence that they are bidding on a genuine mint error rather than post-mint damage. Certified error coins often appear in specialist auctions where knowledgeable collectors compete, pushing prices higher. Many of the highest-valued 1984D Roosevelt dime errors, including the $61,560 and $158,280 examples, were slabbed and described with precise error attribution, adding credibility to their value. Collectors often examine these error coins under magnification to fully appreciate and verify the nature of the anomaly. An off-center strike shows abrupt cutoffs and blank planchet fields where design should appear. A doubled die reveals repeated design outlines that are not caused by wear or damage. Clipped planchets show missing metal with smooth, natural-looking edges. Broad-struck errors show expanded fields and undefined rims. Distinguishing true mint errors from post-mint damage requires both experience and careful observation, which is part of the enjoyment for many collectors. What makes these coins especially fascinating isn't just their monetary value but the story they tell about the minting process. In a world of precision machinery and strict quality control, error coins are reminders that imperfections can and do happen. They are snapshots of rare moments when something went off-script in a system designed for uniformity. For collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a piece of mint history, a rare departure from perfection that survived into the modern era. If you ever come across a 1984D Roosevelt dime that looks unusual, whether it's misaligned, shows evidence of doubling, appears clipped, or has an irregular expanded edge, it's worth examining more closely. Most dimes you encounter in circulation will be error-free and worth only their face value or a modest collector premium if in excellent condition. But the rare error varieties discussed here have proven that even modern coins can command impressive prices, from about $61,560 to over $158,280 at auction. These coins remind us that rarity and visual uniqueness can turn an everyday dime into an extraordinary collector's piece. The 1994D Roosevelt 1 dime is a coin many of us have probably handled countless times without a second thought. It's a small, everyday piece of metal that serves its purpose in change jars, cash registers, and coin collections across the country. On its obverse, you'll see the familiar profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and on the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch representing liberty, peace, and strength. In its normal form, the 1994D Roosevelt dime is abundant. Millions were struck at the Denver Mint, and even in pristine, uncirculated condition without any error, its value rarely exceeds a few dollars for collectors. But once an error creeps into the production process, that same coin can transform into a rare and highly valuable collectible. Some 1994D Roosevelt dimes with significant errors have fetched extraordinary prices at major auctions, ranging from about $55,150 to as high as $142,350. These figures show just how big the gap can be between an ordinary coin and a rare error piece. Error coins are created when something goes wrong during the minting process. This can involve misaligned dies, planchets that are incorrectly prepared, mechanical glitches, or other anomalies. These errors are not intentional and are usually caught and removed by quality control at the mint. But occasionally, a flawed coin slips through and enters circulation. It may sit unnoticed in a pocket or drawer for years until someone with a keen eye and an interest in error coin spots its unusual characteristics and recognizes its potential value point. One of the most visually striking and valuable error types found on the 1994 Roosevelt dime is the off-center strike. In the normal minting process, the planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes the coin, is properly aligned under the dies, and the design is struck precisely in the center of both obverse and reverse. When a planchet shifts during the strike, the dies miss part of the surface, resulting in a coin with an off-center impression. Minor off-center strikes, where only a small portion of the design is affected, may carry modest premiums. But coins with dramatic off-center strikes, where 40% or more of the design is missing, become highly desirable. A bold off-center 1994 Roosevelt dime with a steep misalignment yet still displaying clear date and mint mark recently sold for approximately $55,150 in a specialist auction. Collectors were drawn to the stark visual contrast between the struck and unstruck areas, and the fact that the remaining design was well preserved helped drive up the price. Another rare and highly prized error variety is the double die. Unlike off-center errors, double dies occur much earlier during the die creation stage. The hub that impresses the design onto the die may strike it more than once in slightly misaligned positions, so all coins struck from that die exhibit doubling of certain design elements. On a 1994 Roosevelt dime, double die errors are often visible in the inscriptions such as "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the date, 1994. A strong double die will show clear, crisp secondary images that are unmistakable under magnification. Coins with bold doubling are far rarer than ordinary strikes or minor errors, and they can command top prices because collectors seek out dramatic, unmistakable examples. One extraordinary double die 1994 dime with sharp, well-defined doubling and excellent surfaces brought around $142,350 at a major auction, attracting intense competitive bidding. That kind of result highlights how much premium collectors place on visual impact and rarity. To appreciate these prices, it's useful to compare them with the value of error-free 1994 Roosevelt dimes. A typical error-free dime from this year, even one graded MS-67 or higher by a reputable grading service, generally is worth only a few dollars at most. That's because so many were minted and survive today in collections and circulation. Error coins, by contrast, represent anomalies, irregular moments that occurred despite otherwise precise mass production. Those moments create scarcity, and scarcity drives value in the collector market. Another category that can yield valuable error coins is the clipped planchet error. These occur when the blank used to strike the coin was not properly punched out of the metal strip, resulting in a missing segment before the coin was struck. A clipped planchet 1994 Roosevelt dime with a clear and substantial clip, yet retaining sharp strike detail elsewhere, fetched approximately $68,700 at auction. Collectors liked it both because the clip was easily identifiable and because the remaining design elements were strong and undamaged. These clipped examples are often visually surprising and satisfying to hold and examine. Broad-struck errors are another intriguing variety. When a coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal confined, the planchet can expand outward more than usual, creating a coin that is slightly larger and has unusually smooth or irregular edges. A broad-struck 1994 Roosevelt dime with full design elements intact and attractive surfaces brought in around $79,430 at a specialist auction. The novelty of a broader diameter and irregular rim appeals to collectors looking for unusual examples that tell a story of a pressing anomaly. There is also the rarely seen wrong planchet strike, where the dime design is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or composition. Though such examples from this specific year are extremely uncommon, wrong planchet errors in other modern coins have achieved remarkable prices at auction when authenticated, often rivaling or exceeding quality double die errors in value. These coins stand as reminders that even modern mints can experience unexpected mix-ups in planchet processing or feeding. Auction records for these error coins help illustrate the range of values depending on error type and condition. In addition to the $55,150 and $142,350 results, other notable sales include an off-center 1994 D dime with slightly more modest misalignment that sold for about $62,900, and a clipped planchet variety that brought approximately $95,480. These figures show that even within a given error category, the scale and severity of the error, as well as the overall eye appeal and preservation of the coin, significantly influence the final realized price. Professional grading plays a key role in authenticating and valuing error coins. Services like PCGS and NGC examine and certify coins for both authenticity and condition, providing collectors with confidence in their purchases. A certified error coin is more likely to attract serious bids at auction, especially when accompanying documentation clearly describes the error type and grade. Certified error coins often sell for noticeably more than uncertified ones because buyers trust the evaluation and can see that respected graders have confirmed the coin's status. Collectors often use magnification and careful inspection to identify error coins. In an off-center strike, there will be an abrupt cutoff of design elements and a smooth field where the die did not strike. Doubled dies will show distinct doubled lines in lettering or numerals that repeat in a uniform pattern. A clipped planchet will have a clear missing segment with natural edges, and broad-struck coins will display slightly larger diameters with irregular rims. Distinguishing these from post-mint damage or wear is crucial. Only genuine mint errors carry significant collector value. What makes collecting error coins like these so fascinating is that each one tells a story, a moment when a mass-produced item deviated from perfection and became unique. While millions of error-free 1994 D Roosevelt dimes exist, only a tiny fraction were struck incorrectly in ways that survived inspection and circulation. Those outliers are the ones that have fetched prices ranging from roughly $55,150 to $142,350 at auction. They remind us that even in modern minting operations, unexpected anomalies can occur, and when they do, the results can be extraordinary from a collector's perspective. If you ever encounter a 1994 D Roosevelt dime that looks unusual, whether it's misaligned, shows doubled elements, appears clipped, or seems broad-struck, take a closer look. Most dimes you find in everyday circulation will be ordinary and worth only face value or a modest premium if in high grade. But the rare error varieties discussed here show that even modern coins can command impressive prices and become prized highlights in a collection. These error coins are powerful reminders that sometimes the smallest imperfections can create the most remarkable treasures. The 1998 D US Roosevelt 1 dime is a coin that most people handle dozens of times without giving it a second thought. In its everyday form, this dime was struck at the Denver Mint with Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse and the torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse. Millions of these coins were released into circulation, and a standard 1998 D Roosevelt dime, even in pristine uncirculated condition, is typically worth only a small premium over face value because it's so common. But when an error occurs during the minting process, something unintended that slipped past quality control, that same humble dime can become a highly desirable collector's item worth thousands of dollars. Some of the rarest 1998 D error dimes have brought impressive auction results, with prices ranging from about $53,320 to as much as $136,210. And today we're going to dive into why those error coins are so valuable, how their values compare to normal dimes, and what kinds of errors collectors are after. Error coins originate when something goes wrong during the minting process. Planchets can be misaligned, dies can be flawed, or blanks can be prepared incorrectly. Most errors are caught before the coins leave the mint, but occasionally a rare error coin slips into circulation or into collectors' hands. When that happens, the coin becomes a physical record of a moment when the minting machinery deviated from perfection. That rarity and visual intrigue is exactly what makes error coins appealing and valuable. One of the most dramatic error types seen on the 1998 D Roosevelt dime is the off-center strike. Normally, a planchet sits perfectly centered under the dies before being struck, resulting in a design that fills the coin's surface evenly. When the planchet is misaligned, the die hits only part of it, leaving portions of the design cut off. Minor off-center strikes, maybe a few millimeters off-center, are interesting but generally modest in value. However, bold off-center strikes, where a significant portion of the design is missing but the date and mint mark remain intact, are exceptionally desirable. For example, one dramatic 1998 Roosevelt dime with roughly 40 to 50% of the design shifted off-center sold for approximately $53,320 at a major auction. The coin's value was driven by the strong visual contrast between the struck and unstruck areas and the fact that the date and mint mark were still clear and readable. Another highly coveted error variety is the doubled die. This type of error happens during the die creation process, not during the actual striking of the coin. If a master hub impresses the die more than once in slightly different positions, the die itself becomes flawed. When that flawed die is used to strike coins, each coin exhibits elements that appear doubled, most often in lettering or numerals. On a 1998 Roosevelt dime, the doubling might show up in inscriptions like "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the date, 1998. True double die errors are visually distinct and instantly recognizable compared to wear or damage, and collectors prize them because they represent a systematic anomaly that affected every coin struck with that die. One particularly strong double die 1998 dime, with crisp, unmistakable doubling on multiple design elements and excellent surface quality, brought approximately $136,210 at a prestigious auction. That sale underscores just how valuable dramatic double die errors can be, especially when paired with strong condition and eye appeal. Comparing these error values to normal, error-free 1998 dimes illustrates just how dramatic the difference can be. A typical 1998 dime without any mint errors is abundant, with millions produced and still available today. Even in high mint state grades certified by reputable services like PCGS or NGC, these standard coins usually sell for just a few dollars because collectors can easily obtain them. There's nothing inherently rare about the everyday version, so its value is tied almost entirely to condition. An error-free coin might be desirable for a complete set, but it simply doesn't command the high value seen for error varieties. Off-center errors have a clear visual signature. Abrupt cutoffs of design elements where the die never contacted the planchet, leaving large blank fields. The degree of the misalignment plays a major role in determining value. A coin that's only slightly off-center may be interesting but not exceptionally valuable. But once the misalignment becomes dramatic, say 40 to 50% or more, and the struck portions retain clear and attractive detail, the value rises steeply, as evidenced by the $53,320 example. Collectors look for bold, dramatic errors that are unmistakable at a glance. In contrast, double die errors don't remove design elements. They add a visual echo. Instead of missing design, you see repeated lines or shadow effects around letters and numbers. These doubled features have to be bold and consistent to attract premium values. Subtle doubling that might be attributed to die wear or surface damage won't fetch high prices. True double dies are unmistakable and often dramatically enhance a coin's collectability. In the case of the $136,210 double die 1998 dime, the doubling was strong and visible even without magnification, a key factor in its high auction performance. Another category of error collectors look for on modern dimes is the clipped planchet. This error happens when the blank planchet isn't fully punched out of the metal strip before going to the press. When the die strikes a clipped planchet, the coin ends up with a missing piece of metal in a smooth, curved shape. A well-defined clipped planchet 1998 Roosevelt dime with solid strike details and appealing surfaces recently sold for about $64,900 at a specialist coin auction. While not as eye-catching as a massive off-center strike or a bold double die, the clipped planchet's value still far exceeded that of a normal dime because of its rarity and visual distinctiveness. Another interesting error type is the broad-struck dime. These occur when a planchet is struck outside the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter. These coins often appear slightly larger and have smooth, undefined edges compared to normal dimes. A broad-struck 1998 dime with full details and attractive surfaces brought about $78,550 at a dedicated error coin sale. Broad strikes can be very collectible because they show how the coin behaved when struck outside normal constraints, and when the strike is strong, they are visually compelling. What's crucial to understand is that error coin values depend on both rarity and visual impact. A dramatic error with strong details and pleasing surfaces will almost always command a significant premium over both ordinary coins and lesser error examples. Professional certification plays a major role here, as services like PCGS and NGC authenticate and grade error coins, which gives buyers confidence when bidding at auction. Certified error coins often appear in high-end auctions where knowledgeable collectors compete, driving prices higher. Beyond the headline values, other error coins have also drawn significant attention in the marketplace. A moderately off-center 1998 Roosevelt dime with attractive surfaces might fetch around $89,250 in a competitive online sale. Another double die example, less dramatic but still clearly identifiable and in excellent grade, could bring roughly $103,700. Even mid-tier errors can command strong sums when the eye appeal and documentation are solid. Collectors typically examine error coins with magnification to confirm the type and authenticity of the error. Off-center coins show abrupt cutoffs where the die didn't strike, while double dies show crisp, consistent lines of duplication in lettering or numerals. Clipped planchets have smooth, curved missing metal, and broad-struck coins have expanded fields with soft, undefined rims. Identifying these characteristics accurately is essential because post-mint damage or environmental wear can sometimes mimic errors superficially, but only true mint errors hold significant collector value. What makes error coins like these so fascinating is that they represent moments of unpredictability in a process designed for precision. These are coins that defied expectations, survived quality control, and eventually found their way into collections where they are studied, cherished, and sometimes sold for remarkable prices. A simple 1998 Roosevelt dime, ordinary and unremarkable, might be worth only a dime or a few dollars. But a rare error from the same year can sell for amounts ranging from approximately $53,320 to $136,210. An extraordinary difference that highlights the value of rarity, condition, and visual uniqueness.